Hello everyone, my name is Danielle, and today I want to talk about my favorite video game series of all time, Kingdom Hearts. This series has literally changed my life, and is the core reason I began creating and writing content centered around video games. In a moment of inspiration, I decided to write out this introductory script for a series of deep dive videos into these games that I love so dearly. This video you are watching now is the final product. In this video, I am going to do two things. First, I will talk about my personal journey with the Kingdom Hearts games, and then I will explore my goals for this series. By the end, I hope for you to have more insight into myself and my perspective, as well as what you can expect from future videos. For the sake of accessibility, please see the timestamps listed in the video description. Before beginning, let's get a few things out of the way. For those unfamiliar, I create a magazine called Level Story, which critiques and celebrates the stories told in video games. I already have an issue out for the first Kingdom Hearts game, so go ahead and give that a read via the link in the description. Although I am creating this series of videos, I will still be releasing issues on the Kingdom Hearts games. Look for an issue on Rechain of Memories at the end of 2021. This video series will allow me a bit more freedom when discussing these games, which is why I am making it and not just waiting to discuss everything in future issues of the magazine. This video and future videos will contain spoilers for all games. Though I want to keep each game separate from the ones that come after, I can't promise to not reference anything from future titles that haven't been discussed yet. It is advised that you play these games yourself first and come back, which I know is frustrating since there are a lot of Kingdom Hearts games, but you probably wouldn't be watching this if you didn't enjoy the games, so go play them. You have been warned. Finally, this series will be following the same trajectory as Level Story magazine. I want to critique and celebrate these games I love so dearly. Kingdom Hearts is good. I want you to remember this throughout this series because I'm going to have a lot of criticism towards these games that I love. Me critiquing these games and having negative things to say does not detract from the fact that I own all of these games, have played them multiple times, and have fun with them. I defend them avidly to my friends who refuse to play them for some reason. And yes, I'm talking to you, David. Critiquing these games and talking about them is important to me. I hope that comes across throughout these videos. So let's waste no more time and dive in. It really is kind of funny that I ended up playing Kingdom Hearts at all. For starters, I grew up with Nintendo consoles. The thought of owning a PlayStation was ludicrous to my teenage self. When my brother suggested we split our money to buy a PlayStation 2, I was initially turned off because of a silly gripe with the controller. I just hated the stupid shape symbols on the buttons that were different from Nintendo's letter buttons. Luckily, I got over that silly gripe pretty quickly because I really wanted to play Guitar Hero in my own home, so we bought a PS2. At the time, I was a massive Disney fan, like DVD collector, Disney World obsessed level fan. And I remember really wanting to play a Disney video game that wasn't just a tie-in with bad gameplay that would allow players to play through their favorite Disney movies. I ended up searching online to see if anything like what I pictured in my mind actually existed, and the closest result I found was Kingdom Hearts. I was immediately turned off because I did not like anime as a kid. The closest I got to it was watching Pokemon. What does that say about my younger self? I don't know, but let's move on. The cover art and the screenshots from the games reeked of anime, and I was very skeptical if this was something I'd be into, but I asked for the first game and ended up getting it for Christmas 2006. Our video game consoles were in our basement, and I remember sitting on our green carpet in front of our late 90s, early 2000s mammoth TV because the controller cords wouldn't reach our sofa. My brother was usually playing basketball with the small hoop we had hanging on a closet door behind me. The sound of him smacking against the door constantly to make slam dunks is just vivid in my memory, as well as the glow of the setting sun through the windows. As soon as I popped the Kingdom Hearts 1 disc into my PS2, I knew I was in for a gaming experience unlike any I'd had before. See, up until this point, the games I was used to playing were platformers. Banjo-Kazooie, Super Mario Bros., and Donkey Kong Country. Games that weren't story-driven and never took themselves seriously. Which isn't a bad thing, but left me longing for something more. The closest I'd ever gotten to something like this was Tony Hawk's Underground. Kingdom Hearts immediately caught me off guard with its menu screen. A plain white background, a boy standing with what is that, a fishbone in his mouth? And the strangely ethereal Dearly Beloved playing over top of it all. It was so plain compared to other games I had experienced. It was quiet and relaxed. It genuinely surprised me. I selected my difficulty and jumped into the game. If the menu piqued my interest, it was the simple and clean opening that left me enraptured with this game. Although it feels sacrilegious to say this now, I really didn't like the music. Like, at all. But what I did love were the visuals of this opening movie. I had never known a game could make me feel this way. The games I had played before were blocky and cartoonish most of the time, and never felt on the same level as movies, which somehow felt more professional in their aesthetics. As an adult, I know this is an inherently false belief, but that was how I understood video games in comparison to film at the time. When I popped in Kingdom Hearts, it was as if the world of video games was merging with the quality I recognized from movies, and it caught me off guard in a really good way. From here, my memory falters a bit, and I can only remember bits and pieces of what I was feeling. I loved the stained glass and princesses and how the game was subtly incorporating Disney elements into its design. I found Darkseid's design to be pretty weird and unlike anything I had seen before. At some point I was very confused and I printed out a guide. I don't remember much of my time in the Destiny Islands or Wonderland, however I have a bit of nostalgia for Deep Jungle. I'm not sure what made this fan-hated level stand out beyond the other two, but something about it has always kept my first playthrough of it etched into my brain. Every time I hear the music, it instantly transports me back to my high school self sitting on the green carpet in my basement. Despite this level's notoriety for getting lost, I never had an issue with that thanks to my trusty guide. What I did have an issue with was the final boss fight with Clayton. Man, did I struggle with this on my first playthrough. I just kept dying over and over again, and it wasn't helped by the fact that I had to rewatch the cutscene prior to the fight over and over again as well, because skipping them wasn't an option.
Clayton!
Not Clayton. Not Clayton.
Nope, it's Clayton. But I got through it, and it was at this point that I put the game down to play another time. That other time wouldn't be until 2012 when I was a junior in college. I was still pretty crazy about Disney, and my good friend and roommate also loved Disney. When I told her I had a video game with Disney characters, she was immediately interested. I finally popped Kingdom Hearts 1 into my PS2. Since I was still not a #gamer, I consulted a YouTube playthrough to help guide me through the game. Thank you, Hellfire Comms. What my friend and I hadn't realized yet was that this would become a ritual for the rest of our school year. I would turn on Kingdom Hearts 1 and she would watch while doing her homework. It is a time in our lives that we both look back on with a lot of fondness. After I beat Kingdom Hearts 1, I moved right to Kingdom Hearts 2. I owned Rechain of Memories, but the gameplay system didn't appeal to me, so I skipped it, thinking it was a side story and that didn't matter. Oh, how wrong I was. I got pretty far into the game, once again with the help of Hellfire Comms, but once my junior year was over, the game was set aside, and I didn't pick it up until 2016 when I finally beat it. It is at this point that I want to again emphasize that despite playing hours of these games, I was still not a big gamer and didn't take the time to do anything beyond follow the story from point A to point B. I had never touched an RPG prior to Kingdom Hearts, and despite beating 1 and 2, I didn't even know what an RPG was. The reason I bring this up is because while guides certainly helped me navigate through the games and go to the correct places at the correct time, they didn't teach me about abilities or armor or keyblade stats. I'm not kidding you, I played through Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 never using shortcuts for magic and barely looking at the abilities menu except to equip glide or something. And yes, you can make fun of my past self in the comments, it's fine. I was the most casual of casual players. I didn't bother with the side games because I didn't really have an interest in them. As mentioned, games just weren't my medium of choice most of the time, so my knowledge of them was extremely limited. But just as Kingdom Hearts fell victim to my limited knowledge of the medium, it also is the series that opened me up to loving it and understanding it more deeply. The reason I picked up Kingdom Hearts 2 again in 2016 specifically was because I had heard talk about Kingdom Hearts 3. Since the game was listed on Amazon with a December 31st, 2016 release date, I thought it was legitimately coming out that day. So with this game, I was just, again, with the Aqua trailer, I was so pumped for it that, like, I actually saw JD, I don't know if you remember this, but I had met JD in Philly one day, and we were eating, and I said to you, JD, I can't wait for Kingdom Hearts, this is 2015, by the way. JD, I can't wait for Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out on December 31st, 2015.
Oh, you fresh.
And
JD.
Yeah. Yeah, JD's like, it's not coming out. And I'm like, what? I pre-ordered on Amazon. It says it on there. And he's like, no, that's just a placeholder. And I'm like, damn it.
You sweet summer child.
I know.
Yeah. I was like,
I beat Kingdom Hearts 2, so I would be ready for Kingdom Hearts 3. I also bought myself a PS4. Around this time is when I really started longing for Kingdom Hearts content. I knew there were plenty of games in the series I hadn't touched, so I sought them out. After playing a bit of Birth by Sleep on my brother's old PSP, the 1.5 and 2.5 collection was announced for the PS4, and I was over the moon. I pre-ordered that collection, as well as 2.8. Since 2.8 was released before 1.5 and 2.5, I ended up watching back cover and was extremely confused, despite enjoying the movie. I also got into speedrunning around this time. After watching a Kingdom Hearts 2 speedrun at SGDQ 2017, I was amazed at what could be done with these games. Like, I had played through all of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and barely took advantage of how awesome the gameplay was. Seeing the game run so quickly got me interested in the combat a lot more than ever before. So I had moved from being a baby Kingdom Hearts fan to an adolescent teenage Kingdom Hearts fan, and I was hyped for Kingdom Hearts 3. I started watching the Gamers Joint every day. New trailers were what I lived for. Project Astadi became my religion, but what sent me over the edge was the E3 2018 Frozen trailer. Seeing who was then known as Aquanort had me so hyped for Kingdom Hearts 3. I ended up canceling my Amazon pre-order from 2016 and pre-ordered from GameStop so that I would have the game in my hands right at midnight on January 29th, 2019. I ended up getting it at 9 p.m. on January 28th and spent the subsequent days immersed in the new Kingdom Hearts game. Since then, I have been immersing myself in the Kingdom Hearts community, and I still obsess over it, though my hype has died down a small bit since Kingdom Hearts 3's release. I've gone into a lot of detail, and I could go into a lot more detail, but I think I've covered enough to give you a good picture of how Kingdom Hearts came into my life and how it has become such a big part of it. One thing that I did not mention in that summary is that level story may not have existed if it weren't for Kingdom Hearts, specifically Birth by Sleep. After playing that game in the summer of 2017, my feelings were so conflicted that I desperately wanted to write my thoughts down. I considered writing a blog series, a book, and making a YouTube series. This is when Level Story was born, out of my desire to talk about this game and the stories in other video games. So I have Kingdom Hearts to thank for Level Story existing in the first place, which is pretty cool. Now that you basically know my entire Kingdom Hearts life story, I want to talk about what you can expect from this critique and commentary series. As of this moment, I can't say for sure what the series will end up looking like. The idea is to create a long-form video for each game in the series. Videos will initially be released in short chunks and compiled together for each game respectively after they have been released. I will also be releasing these episodes in podcast form, which will be available exclusively on the Level Story Patreon. I hope to release these videos sooner than later, but this is a big undertaking, so I thank you for your patience. Since my expertise is story, that will be the central focus of this series. I will also discuss how the gameplay, music, and level design work with the story to complement or hinder the game's themes. I may branch into other realms, but for the most part, I want to stick to what I know rather than what I don't. The videos will be somewhat like reviews, but will mostly work to analyze the games. In this series of videos, I will be looking at Kingdom Hearts as a serious text. This begs the question, should we take Kingdom Hearts seriously?
Yes! No!
My answer is yes. Kingdom Hearts should be taken seriously. But I feel like this question can be a bit misleading. I see this happen a lot online where someone will critique something and go in depth about said critiques, i.e. critiquing a Disney movie or a children's cartoon, and another person will respond saying something like, "Bro, don't take it so seriously. It's just a kid's video game. It isn't meant to be taken seriously." And this bothers me because this devalues conversation and critique. It assumes that something marketed towards kids is automatically lesser and unworthy. It's a cheap shot that doesn't properly engage with the art itself. What I don't want to do is take Kingdom Hearts seriously in the sense that I see it only as a serious set of games. Kingdom Hearts does take itself a little too seriously at times, but it is also full of fun and goofy scenes. I'm not interested in critiquing it for what it is not, because that doesn't get us anywhere. Rather, I am interested in looking at what the team at Square Enix created so that I can examine it like I would any other story. I am also interested in debunking the myth that Kingdom Hearts complexity is a bad thing. Complexity in storytelling is not automatically bad, and Kingdom Hearts often gets accused of the bad complexity for the wrong reasons. Believe me, Kingdom Hearts has storytelling issues, there's no doubt about it, and it can be confusing. But I want to see what these stories are attempting to do and why they end up being a bit much to understand at times, and why other times they're absolutely beautiful and deserve the proper recognition for their achievements. I guess the final question I want to answer is, why am I doing this? My answer is pretty short and basic. I have a lot I want to get off my chest when it comes to this series I love, and I think these videos will be a fun project to voice my thoughts and opinions. I hope you can look forward to what is to come from the series, as well as Level Story in general. The next set of videos will be focusing on Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix, which I hope to get to you soon. Thanks for watching. Hey, congratulations! You reached the end of this video. This video is premiering during March Caprice 2021. For those watching live, I have a few quick announcements. First, be sure to check out the next awesome person in our lineup of today's events. Their link should be on the screen and in the description below. Second, Level Story is holding a giveaway to win a copy of the Kingdom Hearts 1 issue of the magazine, which you can enter via the link below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of March Caprice.